Well, a much more beneficial and realistic pre-season game today, as expected, with the rivalry we have with Cincinnati. There was good competition and a very tight encounter today, which I think both teams will have taken an awful lot from. So I'm delighted with the minutes, with the realism, and the step that we've taken forward in physical terms. Unfortunately, today the result across 120 minutes didn't go our way, but in all honesty, at this point, it is a long way down the priority list. It is purely about getting the group back on track and into some sort of rhythm.
Thank you, Coach. We'll start with Tim Sullivan, then go down the list. Go ahead, Tim.
Hey, Gary. Once again, we weren't there to see it, just like last week. So can you talk us through how some of the scoring went down?
Yeah. The game started very brightly for us. The picture of the team, and because of the way the minutes were played, was a slightly different format to probably a lot of other preseason games we've had. But we started off very brightly. Alex Mule did very well down the right-hand side, worked in a terrific cross into the near post that Luke Hackinson glanced into the far corner. Sadly, but I think 3-4 minutes, 5 minutes after that at the most, we conceded. And looking back at the clips, a bit of a breakdown. I think more so on the right-hand side, strangely enough, again with Alex, got caught the wrong side of the attacking player who squared it for one of the Cincinnati forwards to guide in, about 8 yards out. The second goal, Cincinnati took themselves into the lead. Annabelle got caught in possession around the halfway line. And in all honesty, in a bit of a rear guard action, too many players got drawn towards the ball, and Cincinnati were able to work it out of there down sort of left-hand channel of the penalty box, and the lad did well to guide it past Joe. And then the equaliser, which I have to say, the build-up to, I can't overly remember well, but I do remember Alex Mule doing a great job of smashing in a rebound to get us back on level terms. And the winner, in all honesty, came from a turnover again in the middle of midfield, which unfortunately was a little bit of a feature. There was some sloppiness in some of our play today, which was very out of character. And from the turnover, they did a good job again of working the ball centrally. Young, I think, academy player for, if I'm not mistaken, for Cincinnati, had a little bit too long on the edge of the box, but did a wonderful job of curling it into the far top corner. And I think that was about 115 minutes in. So, an awful lot went on in the game. It's difficult to try and get, the competition right, running into the right group of players when you're looking at a more senior group, maybe wanting to run into their senior group, because everyone's pre-season is at different places. But I think both teams did a very good job. I spoke to Pat Noonan before the game, and I think we just about got it right. I know we felt as though the minutes were in a very good place for our group to move forward towards the weekend.
Thank you, Coach. Next, we'll go to Drake Hills from the Tennessean. Go ahead, Drake.
Hey, Gary. Wanted to ask you, obviously, you've talked about Alex at length so far, and obviously Luke with the first goal, two guys coming from the wider areas. How do you think the likes of the guys that you did starting through the middle, like a Rios or Teal when he came on, and perhaps even Mukhtar in his own role, how did you think those guys fared this afternoon? And a part of that, what did their respective performances do for them as individuals as you're thinking about Seattle, which is something that you mentioned last week?
Yeah, it is strange when you look at the ebb and flow of players in pre-season. There are days where some of the guys look very leggy and maybe have not quite recovered from the work that they're putting in daily. I would honestly maybe summarize it today that the more senior characters in our group were not performing at the level that we've seen them and would normally expect. That can be for a multitude of different reasons. You know, they didn't come into the game, the majority of them, until 45 minutes or an hour into the game. So there's a lot of lag time there to keep themselves mentally as well as physically engaged. And generally, maybe just finding their way. There's a lot of changes within the group across the course of 120 minutes, and you can lose a bit of continuity. On the flip side of that, I thought there were some of the younger guys and maybe some of the individuals that are not always, you know, getting the main or lion's share of press. Guys like Josh Bauer, you know, Rob Castellanos. I thought Brian Nunga had a much better outing today in the centre of midfield. And then, you know, the likes of Luke and Daniel did a very decent job of showing a lot better than maybe they have done in the past 2 weeks in some of the competition. And again, that can be, you know, getting themselves into a much more realistic vein and feeling a bit sharper. But you do tend to find that, you know, in these early stages, you're very, very fortunate if everything comes together in pre-season games. You know, we've been working at certain aspects in training. You tend to find that those aspects come out in the game, and some of the other more natural characteristics, if you like, are sometimes, you know, pushed to the background. And I need to keep reminding the group of you know what it will take and what it does take to win games consistently once the season starts.
Ben Wright, you're on with Coach Gary Smith.
Yeah, Gary, I believe this is the first we've seen from Ahmed. Can you just talk a little bit about what you saw from his performance today and I guess overall so far in preseason?
Yeah, Ahmed's done a wonderful job of fitting into the group. It's never easy coming out of college. It's such a different world, you know, when you step into an environment where it is your job and you are an entertainer, and winning is an absolute necessity for the team and for you as an individual, for your career. So I think he's done a really good job of settling in. What I've seen in this, what we can class as a month now, are a lot of the things that I think we all felt coming out of college would be his strengths. He's very athletic, mobile, and he's quite an aggressive centre-back who wants to come and attack the ball. The things that are going to determine his future and how quickly he can make that transition from where he's at to getting minutes in the first team are probably going to be more based around technical aspects, being cleaner and more reliable in possession. And of course, understanding the role that he's in a back three, which I'm not sure he's seen an awful lot. The positioning there is somewhat different, of course, than playing in a back four, which I think he's a little bit more accustomed to. But he's made a good impression.
Go ahead, Drake.
Yeah, it's similar to what my previous question about the guys that I mentioned, but one guy who I didn't was CJ. And you mentioned that the workload that you guys have been doing the past week or so. In terms of guys who maybe didn't get the minutes, was it simply due to just them getting recovering from that, or do you have any health concerns about guys like CJ, Eric Miller, and Handwalla Bwana, among others?
No, Handwalla's got a little bit of a tie hamstring. You know, we've got to determine where he's at with that. And sadly for him, it tightened up yesterday in training, and he's looked really bright, very positive. So that hopefully, fingers crossed, he's not anything that's going to keep him out too long. CJ's had a bit of a tight back. Some of the work in the most recent sort of 48 hours he's been able to join in with, but it was more precautionary than anything else today. just to work him through that and for him to feel mentally in a better place, if you like. The guys that you saw out in the field or have taken up the minutes, you know, to your point with Eric and Alex, they both played 60 minutes. That's their first 60 minutes in a competitive game. You know, we've had work that's gone on within the group, but that's very different to running into an opponent and having to deal with, you know, the rigors of what we can class as, you know, a pretty competitive environment. So they're all taking those steps forward physically. Like I said at the very start, I wanted the 120 minutes to make sure a lot of the squad, in fact, nearly all of them, got a good portion of the game, which I was able to achieve. In doing so, and having had a limited amount of time to reflect on it, I would question personally if I got, you know, the changeover of players and the order of bodies and, you know, where they should be in the game to get the very most out of it as a team. Individually, I think they got quite a bit out of it, minutes and competition. But there's certainly, for me, some questions to be raised about, you know, what and how I constructed the groups.
Next, we'll go to Tim Sullivan with the Club and Country. Go ahead, Tim.
Gary, you mentioned when we talked to you, I think each of the last two times that we talked to you, that kind of your priorities as you ramp up towards the regular season from preseason training, kind of the priorities might change as you get closer to that opening date. What are your priorities for the next week and a half? And what do you feel like you've done the best job of accomplishing so far? And what do you wish you had a little more work done on to this point?
Yeah. Well, I think the things that I'd be most comfortable and happy about at this point in the preseason would be the physical well-being of the group in general. I think the guys are in a good place and they're moving towards the opening fixture mentally and physically in a good spot because, you know, as a player, it's not just about, you know, physically the position you're in. The confidence comes from that. And if you're not fit and strong, then the confidence in your own play starts to wane and diminish a little bit. So I'm pretty confident and pleased with the way that that's gone. I'm happy with you know, some of the attacking, possessional management of the ball aspects of the game. I thought we did a pretty good job today of exploiting some areas of Cincinnati, especially down those flank areas. And I think there's been some nice progression there for all of the guys that have either played as a wing back and the connection that they're now getting with those attacking trio of players, whoever they are. I think that understanding has moved forward. Strangely enough, in emphasizing more of a positive aspect to the game, you normally find that, you know, people start to forget about the things that have underpinned the group and have, you know, have given us so much joy, which for the most part have become part of our DNA, which is tough to play against, determined group, hard to break down. We were a little bit too expansive today. One or two poor mistakes allowed opportunities to develop. They've still got to be finished by the opponent, but we certainly could have and should have avoided even presenting those moments. But full credit to them for executing well. And that's all part of pre-season as well. When you play against good teams, when you play against teams that have got more of an edge to them and are more clinical, then you've got to reduce those mistakes. And I think it will be a bit of a poke in the eye for us today, and it should be that we've been beaten. Nobody likes to get beaten in whatever way, shape or form. But in terms of moving forward, I think it will be, there'll be far more positives than negatives to take away.
Tyler Snipes, SBI Soccer, you're on with head coach Gary Smith.
Hey, thanks for taking the time today, Gary. curious about a couple of your newcomers, just between Teal and Sean, and how you see them settling in and working themselves into the group so far.
I think for both of those guys, the experience and their standing, I mean, in terms of respect around the league and certainly within the group that they're in now, is obviously very, very good. And I think that alone helps that transition. Both of those guys are obviously very understanding of the challenges of pre-season, of any given MLS season. The keys obviously are trying to work those individuals into the style and the system that you're playing. And then, of course, the relationships that they build, and the quicker they build them, the sooner that we can get the best out of those guys. But in both of those cases, they've done a great job. They're wonderful people, very, very good characters, very honest characters. They've both come in really good condition, which has obviously given them a very good platform to move on from. Sean's had a little bit of a tight quad that he's overcome, and I didn't want to get too pushy with him today, so hence the 45 minutes instead of anything prolonged. But Teal's in a slightly better place, and given CJ's mission and the way that the groups are shaping up, it made absolute sense and looked pretty decent to have, Teal in for 60 minutes, and of course Daniel in the other half of the game as a what we would class as an out-and-out striker, if you like.
Next, we'll go to Ben Wright with Broadway Sports Media. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, Gary, you talked a little bit last week just about some of maybe just figuring out the new shape in the front three and defending with that. And Walker even talked about how it was tricky when there's six dropped between the center backs and kind of made some overloads. How did you feel like you guys handled that today? And do you feel okay about that new shape going forward, or do you feel like it still needs work?
Certainly it needs work. A lot of it, honestly, is recognizing the moments at which the guys can get more pressure on the ball and the cohesive nature and their changes of pace. We've got an intelligent group of players. They take good information on board, but they're going to make mistakes. And only by making mistakes and highlighting that in some of the video that we have post-game in the debrief, can we work out how we can correct those situations and how much more consistent we can be, because there are certainly good things happening. We got some decent pressing moments within the shape that we had, but there does have to be a very decent relationship and understanding between the front three, the midfield two, and of course when the wing backs come and join in. So work to be done, no doubt. But this shape, unless you're gonna play a more reckless style, if you like, and really commit players higher up the field, there's always an Achilles heel to every system, and it's recognizing that, understanding it, and most importantly, managing the moments in the game. And that's why you see so many teams that score first go on and earn points out of the game. So we've got to get that balance right.
Do we have any more questions for head coach Gary Smith? We'll wrap up today's session with Coach Smith with Tyler Snipes. Go ahead, Tyler.
Thanks again, Gary. I don't know if I'm going to be able to talk to you again before the season starts, so I'm sorry to ask a question like this after a scrimmage, but I've talked to a couple of the guys this week, and something that they've mentioned is that they really believe that this team is built for tournament-style play, and they really believe that there's going to be a lot of success there this season with getting U.S. Open Cup back, with getting the Leagues Cup, but also having to deal with a challenging, Western Conference, a long MLS season, and then ultimately, making the postseason. At this point, would you say that you agree with their sentiment that the team is strongest in tournament style play? And is there an emphasis in any one of those directions from where you sit now?
Well, first of all, it's nice to hear that the guys, in their opinion, have got some belief in, if I'm absorbing this correctly, that they feel as though they, have the ability to win silverware, whether that's an Open Cup or whether that's in a cup competition. If you look at our form last year, if I'm not mistaken, we were one of the most consistent teams throughout the year, 4 defeats. Finished in a wonderful league position for our second year in MLS. So I'd have to disagree with whoever said that a little bit, that, if they're just looking at tournament play, what all of the guys here understand, and I think last year's performances reflected that, was that the year before we ended up in a playoff game or wildcard game with Miami, which gave us extra playing time, and it congested the postseason and did not give us the best possible opportunity of going to Columbus. And we fell foul of that. The guys, I think, galvanized themselves mentally and physically and said, look, if we have any chance of winning MLS Cup, we have to finish in a more beneficial position in the regular season, which they did. And unfortunately, we were still pipped in those penalties in Philadelphia. And there are always lessons to be learned. But in 2 years of this organisation, we've slowly but surely improved. And I have no reason to suspect that won't be the case this year. One thing is for sure: if you attack every weekend as if it's your last, then you'll get something out of it. The times that you take things for granted and you take winning for granted and you think you're better than you are and you get a bit complacent, guaranteed that your form dips. That is a reality of not just this sport, I would imagine of most. So having been around and built this team here that's functioning in a very positive way, the players' challenge this year is to maintain that sort of focus and desire that they've shown in the last 2. That's not easy. We were just sitting around the dinner table watching the Manchester City game away at Sporting, 5-0 up, relentless. Players at the very, very top level that, have so much appetite for constantly winning. And that just can't be taken for granted, because it's not something that happens all the time. And if you're doing well, you've got to continually reinforce that. We're in that position. We have to reinforce that. There will be challenges this year like no other in our first 2 years, 8 games away, an incredible season at Titan Stadium. We played our last game there. So we've got to try and find that form at our new ground. We look forward to it, but it's not a given. It's not a given. And, there's so many things that we can still improve and continue to reinforce. I know we've got the group here to do it. And, who knows, maybe along the way, a couple of additions at whatever point to keep that competition and strength and people on their toes. Everyone has to understand that as well as they're playing, you've got to get the very best out of yourself. And sometimes you can't do that on your own. You've got to have somebody constantly holding a flame to your backside. And if that's somebody around you that's supplying that competition, then so be it.
Anibal, obviously a big, just over a month away, I guess, for Panama in terms of making the World Cup. What have you guys done to get yourselves into this position, other than obviously where you are on the table? And what do you feel like you guys need to accomplish in that final window of qualifying?
Yes, I think the last window for us is it'll be more difficult because we lose 2 games. In this moment, we cannot lose that game like this because we have now Costa Rica behind us, only 1 point less. And the next window for us is very important. It is the last window, and we need to give everything because it's the last opportunity. If we want to go to the World Cup, we have 2 games home, 2 really difficult games home against Honduras, and the last one against Canada. And we know USA play against Mexico the first game. If we win against Honduras the first game, we come here to USA the second game to try to fight it for something. Everybody knows it's difficult, but it's not impossible for us.
Thank you, Anibal. Next, we'll go to Drake Hills with Tennessee. And go ahead, Drake.
Yeah, Anibal, Gary had mentioned that obviously you and more of your teammates who are more experienced, more senior players weren't necessarily at their best today. How do you feel about how you played against Cincinnati today, and where you are at in your preseason preparation?
Yes, it's really difficult game, tough game. Today, the all young players for the Cincinnati they want to show the quality. They want to put pressure to us. I think we need to improve if we want to start well this season. In my opinion, for me, it's no good game for me. I think I don't play well. I lose so many balls, like no normal in my position. But it's the second game. In this moment, we need to try to think every day. Try to think for tomorrow. Try to training to try to improve because I think we need to improve. We have more quality this year. We have big player. We have different shape, and we need to working. If we want to change something, we want to win something this year.
Thank you, Anibal. Next, we'll go to Ben Wright. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, Anibal, you played with Sean last match and then with Dax this match. What's your take and evaluation just on midfield so far?
Both players, they have different quality. Dax is an experienced player. He has so many years in the league. Sean also. Sean is more young. Dax, everybody know Dax in the league. They have different quality. I think the both guys help us a lot in this occasion because we need the role for everybody. Also, we have Onunga behind us. We have a good team. I think Sean have like 1 month with us now. He need to learning about the system with Gary. He come to Red Bull in different shape, high press, different formation, different style. Everything is new for him. For sure, he's an amazing player, but this is not only about 3 players or in my position. This is about the team. This is why last year we go to the semifinal.
Next, we go to Tim Sullivan. Go ahead, Tim.
Anibal, with about a week and a half from your first game that actually counts, what do you guys feel like you have to continue improving on so that you're ready for that trip to Seattle?
Yes, we know we have a tough schedule for us. The first 8 game, I think we play away. It's first time for me. I think in the league is really difficult also because we travel a lot. We travel long, you know. But we need to be ready for this challenge, you know. West Coast is more difficult. They have more quality player there. They like to play. All the team like to play. Is if we want to take something this first 8 game, we need to working hard. We need to try to working like a team, like we working before. We have so many quality in the top. We have a really good player in 1-against-1. We have Randall, Hani, CJ, Tio, Ake. You know, this player change the game in 1 minute. This is why we need to stay, try to don't concede so many goals. You know, to try to the opportunity we have, try to score.
Thank you, Anibal. Next, we'll go to Drake Hills. Go ahead, Drake.
Yeah, you mentioned, Anibal, the difference. You know, you go into the Western Conference, teams like to play. They're more, you know, possession. You know, there's a different play style. But you've been with San Jose. You played in the West before, but also this is your 3rd season with Nashville. What do you think it takes in preseason to prepare to play for a Western Conference team, and how do you think Nashville is preparing for that? Do you think that Nashville is ready to go into the West?
I think, you know, we need to try to working hard, try to be ready to working hard, because everybody know in the league now, they speak about Nashville, about the defense. You know, Nashville have good shape, Nashville defend well, but nobody speak about our offense. You know, we have last year we create so many chances. We score a lot of goal, and this is why we need to improve. You know, try to stay compact, try to defend well. The first 15-20 minutes for each game, try to stay focused, because if we jump the first 20-30 minutes in the each game, for sure we take something, because we play away. You know, in this league to try to win away is so difficult. More if you go to the West, if you go Seattle, if you go Vancouver, you go LA, it's tough place to play. You know, we need to be ready for this battle.
Next, we'll go to Tim Sullivan. Go ahead, Tim.
Well, you talked a lot about going away, but how excited are you to return back to Nashville for that first game in the new stadium at the beginning of May?
I'm waiting for this moment. I'm waiting. This is why I'm so excited to stay here 3 years more. You know, because I want to feel this feeling in this stadium. The people in Nashville waiting for this moment also. The people in Nashville, they like more the football now, soccer. You know, they like soccer more. They follow us. They support us. This is good for us, because if we take something away in the first 8 games, for sure we go with the big energy in this first game in the Nashville Stadium.